What's up, everybody? I'm Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL Caleb 22, and this is Betting the NFL Week number 16. And as always, here with me is my co-host, Derek Wesley, also known as DWeezy. What's going on, man?
Man, I'd like to say it's just another week, but we got the playoffs creeping up. So, I mean, for a lot of these teams, every week is growing. The importance of every week is growing week to week. And so, it's hard to say it's just another week, as we creep up on these playoffs. Um, it kind of felt like just yesterday that the season was starting, and boom, here we are, basically about a month out from, the playoffs starting up.
And more importantly, less and less opportunities for us to make money, which is not good. Which is yesterday we had all these opportunities, and we got lost all this money, want some money, but going back and forth, but only a few more opportunities for us to win some money this season, which makes me kind of sad. But uh, we'll be here with you guys all the way up to the Super Bowl, giving you our best picks of the week. So hopefully we can round out the year with a profitable year end. But we'll say what's up to my dad. What's going on? Thanks for joining. But before we get into our week 16 picks, we got to look back what happened last week in week 15. And the favorites against the spread were pretty good. 10-5-1 overall. They've been really good. 112 to 112 overall. Home teams against the spread, very good. 11-4-1. Overall, they've been not as good. They actually been losing more often than winning. 104, 108, and 12. But it was really surprising. Home favorites did really well, 8-2-1. And then we saw back to the norm with the over and unders, with the unders getting the edge. There were 7 overs, 9 unders, and overall we've seen the unders pretty much dominate. So we had that 2-week span of overs hitting, but now it kind of came back down. We saw not as many points scored as we had been seeing, and we got those unders back up.
Yeah, I do think, when it comes to unders in general, it's a little bit of a different philosophy than the way a lot of people approach an over bet, regardless of the sport or the market, because it's easier for a number to go up as people bet it than it is for a number to go down. And so, you know, we see unders coming in routinely, one after the other. We get a couple weeks of the overs actually coming in with some level of frequency, maybe a slight adjustment out of the book, and boom, you got another chance to get back on those unders because people, they see the overs hitting 2 weeks in a row, they're going to start betting those unders, and it's easier for the books to move that number up than it is for them to move that number down. So, it creates more opportunity for those unders to hit and come in.
We'll say what's up to Adelia. How's it going? Um, all right. Got through that. Now we get to the biggest upset of the week. And that seems to happen a lot on Monday Night Football. We've had like several straight upsets of the weeks on Monday Night Football. And here we have another one with the Eagles at the Seahawks. Seahawks were +4, and they do get the upset when winning 17-20. And this was a game I bet on. I had the Eagles, and definitely was on the wrong side of this one. I thought Jalen Hurts was going to be healthy, fully healthy. Obviously, there was some question the day before we saw him that they were determining who was going to start in the game. That's kind of like the disadvantage of betting early versus betting right up before game time. You have not all the information going into the game. But stuff like that can pop up, and especially in a game when it's played on Monday night, anything that of that sort can pop up. So I don't think he was wholly himself. He went out there and played. Tried to go out and you give it his best. Just it wasn't good. His best. However he was feeling that day was not good enough to win this game. Um, I thought, if the Eagles had just got their offense right, we know their defense is bad. But even how bad their defense has been playing, I didn't really think Drew Lock was going to do really much of anything, even with that bad defense. So I really thought if Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense can really just get together, they would get the win here and even cover that 4-point spread. But they just couldn't get it done. Drew Lock does make a nice drive at the end of the game, and it gets that nice touchdown pass to win it. And then Jalen Hurts just wasn't good. Didn't have good performance, and that's what. And he couldn't really pull it out like he usually does, like we have seen him in this past season against good teams. But it was poor performance by him, and that's why they lost. And that's why I lost. But how do you feel about this game? But before you do, say what's up to Jose. Thanks for joining. Love to have you here. But yeah, thoughts on
Yeah,
Eagles
this
Seahawks?
loss definitely falls on the Philadelphia offense in this game because outside of 30, 45 seconds, the defense went out there and held the Seahawks to 13 points throughout the game. Um, and, as you said, the offense clearly had, opportunities. Hurts may have not been 100%, which does, for a player, of course, that makes things more challenging. Uh, but you would like to imagine that the offense would be able to go out there and produce better than what we saw against a team out of Seattle that I think Seattle played like many people expected they would. And, you know, as you said, if we see just a slight more scoring out of the Eagles, even if there is that late touchdown like we saw when Seattle finished with 20 points, we're still talking about likely the Eagles being able to cover in that scenario. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and we saw the Seahawks go out and get the outright upset. Um, you know, we've seen a lot of ugly football on primetime this year, regardless of the day. But when you're talking about standalone games, um, regardless how good you think the matchup might be, or even how bad the matchup might be, we just seen a lot of ugly football this year. Um, and another primetime game where the under came in, outside of that crazy Thursday night game we saw, which I mean, honestly, who saw the Raiders going out and damn near dropping 70? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, but yeah, so primetime unders still coming in a major way. I believe, yeah. Sunday and Monday night, both unders came in on the pregame number. Um, falling right in line with that under trend that we've seen all season. And, lean into one of the things we've said here. When you get bad football, whether that be because of a matchup, because of weather, whatever the reasoning may be, when you get bad football, it's strong. There's strong chances that you see the under come in on a game total, regardless of where the number is.
All right. Next, we got the bad beat of the week, and that came in the Bears at the Cleveland Browns. Browns were minus 2.5, and they what was the score? It was 17-20,
I
and the
believe
Browns
yes.
did get the win. Yeah, 17-20. Got that right. Browns did get the win. And it was a three. It was a almost it was 3-point game, 2.5 point spread. You have the hook there. Kind of it's gonna screw you. Like I've been saying it all season. Those hooks will screw you, but especially in this game. But in this game, you had the Bears get up to a 17-7 lead. You're feeling pretty good as Bears better. Like you have it. You have this in the bag. I mean, Flacco's looking awful. He's thrown 2 interceptions. Like you don't really expect. I mean, you expect that more of that Flacco, but he gets it together. He somehow, scores, like three straight scoring drives for Joe Flacco in the end to take the lead in this game. And then, of course, it just happens to end on a Hail Mary pass where looks like it's good, and then it gets picked off in the end. That's just so Justin Fields just finding ways to lose as he has done his entire career. And that's what ends up screwing all the Bears bettors out there and losing just by a half point. I mean, that's got to be a bad beat.
Most definitely. Anytime you see a team taking a lead late into a game, especially when you're talking about a skinny spread like this, where within that one possession, um, you know, it always burns a little extra to get beat by that hook. That's why the books put it out there. That's why a hook can greatly change the odds of you know of what the bet is, or what the market's representing, because it can be that powerful. This exact same game, I was on last week, -3. Of course, I had to find me a push this week. Happened to be this Cleveland game. But up until that fourth quarter, you kind of looking at the game like, man, this bet's dead. Uh, final score falls on a push, and you see just some of that magic that Flacco's been able to conjure with this Cleveland Browns team, as they find themselves squarely in a playoff hunt. And I know many people did not expect this, especially after Deshaun Watson went down.
All right. Uh, Next, we will get to our records of the week, and same as last week, just 2 and 3 for me. But I did get a really good win right off the bat in Saturday night or Saturday with the Steelers at the Colts. I had the Colts -1.5. I thought that was a great bet. As because just seeing how bad the Steelers have been in offense, I thought there was no doubt that the Colts could cover a 1.5 point spread. I thought that was pretty easy because you just saw the same problems occur with the offense and Mitch Trubisky playing awful once again. Just and they couldn't sustain the run game to even help them out. But the difference was the defense completely falling apart for the defense for the Steelers. I mean, that I think that was the biggest reason why they lost this game, because they had a lead in the beginning of the game. Like, they got off to a great start. They were up 13-0. They had a block punt. They scored the next drive after that. It was looking really good for the Steelers, and then the defense just couldn't hold the Colts. I mean, the Colts offense, Gardner Minshew, was doing whatever they wanted. Minshew threw three touchdowns. They ran for 170 yards as a team. That's what I'm saying. So I really put it on the Steelers defense more than, because we've seen how bad the offense was, has been, but to be up 13-0 and then give up all these points, that's pretty rough. But I felt confident in the Colts because they've been very productive on offense. So I felt very confident in picking them to get that 1.5 point cover, and they did just that.
Yeah, as far as my strongest plays from last week, ended up going 2-2-1. As I said, found me a push. I'm gonna have to go back and double check at the end of the season, but at this rate, I think I'm running about 75% to hit a push just about every week on the season. I mean, it's really getting insane. If it's a flat number, man, there's some wicked odds out there somewhere that I'm gonna land on a push. I was on Denver in their game as they got blown out against the Lions, returning more to their early season self. But that was I definitely have to say that was my worst loss on the week. As I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but when you lose by 25, 30 points, you clearly did not show up to play. This was a team that a lot of people were talking about with maybe a fighting chance to make the playoffs, and they may not technically be dead from the playoff hunt, but given their performance this past Sunday and what it's going to do to the odds and scenarios out there to make the playoffs happen, I'm pretty sure that the Denver Broncos will not be reaching the playoffs. So expected more of a fight out of them. Didn't get it. But as far as my strongest, my best play for the week, definitely that Baltimore Ravens -3, as they just went and pretty much tried to make a strong case, if not a winnable case, that they're the best team in the AFC right now. Um, it's hard to say they're not when you go out and win games like that. They, had a few bumps along the road this season. Of course, as their records are not perfect, but when you're 12, 13 games in on, or excuse me, 14, 15 games in on a season and you've won 10, 11 games in that range, you're clearly going out there and dominating your opponents for the most part. You're doing more than winning against who's put in front of you. Because eventually you're going to run into some good teams, and as we've seen this season, the AFC North has been rather fickle to teams outside of their division. And that Browns team is another team out there that's been a very strong team, and even upset a few teams unexpectedly along the way this season. Um, so yeah, being able to get the Ravens at a low price as they were last week at -3. If you were watching the game, I mean, this was an easy cash because at no point in time in this game was that -3 ever in doubt of not cashing.
All right. My worst pick, on the other hand, was devastating for me personally. Um, but it was the Cowboys +2 at the Bills. Got to talk about it because, man, it was bad. It was just all kinds of bad for me. I just thought we as good as we were playing, I thought we would just continue to play that way. Um, and it just didn't happen. I mean, the Bills just came out with a perfect game plan against us. They just hit us in all of our weaknesses. Running it down our throats. We were very vulnerable, and with our defense, with our best defensive tackle out, our run stopping defensive tackle, our best middle linebacker out, very weak in the middle, and then they just take advantage of our over aggressive pass rush and just run it, run it, run it. They ran it so much they didn't even need to pass it, and that's the thing. That's why I picked against the Bills. Is because the Bills have been so Josh Allen dependent. Whether he has a good game or bad game, very up and down. And him and his over aggressiveness to do too much and get very pass happy. I was betting on that happening, and they just didn't need to. They just did not need to pass at all, and it shows in the numbers. I mean, he only passed 7 of 15 for 94 yards and a touchdown. They in this one game, they were not Josh Allen dependent. They were just solely dependent on that great run game that they had going. And the Cowboys defense just didn't have any answers. For it, and we haven't had any answers for some run games, and then that's what killed us. Just a totally embarrassing performance on the defensive part, and then on the other side, they even had a great game plan to shut our big plays down. Kind of put a lot of guys in the back, so Dak's just kind of looking for guys to get open, and they just weren't. He's going through a progression. He had nobody to throw to, and then he's either getting sacked or just thrown in incompletion. So they had a great game plan against us, and it's just not one that I saw coming.
Yeah, this was definitely a game where you felt good about the Cowboys coming into this matchup. It felt like a similar scenario as the going into the matchup with the Eagles. On one side, we got a team that seems to be playing at their best. On the other side, you have a team that's been faltering over the past few weeks. And clearly in the Philly matchup, we saw the Cowboys dominate, and that was not the case as, Dallas is building a reputation this season as a team that's vulnerable on the road for whatever reason that may be. You could probably link it to a few different possibilities, but all resulting in the same things.
I think it's most because our mistake, we can't recover from our mistakes on the road as we can on at home. especially in the penalty department. We're one of the most penalized teams, or if not the most penalized team in the league. And I think that's what kills us on the road, because we're not able to recover from those stupid, dumb penalties that we make, like we cannot at home.
And that's a possibility because as we've mentioned, home field advantage may be fading away in general. I can see Jerry's World being it doesn't have to be a sellout to have a strong crowd behind a team in a game. So regardless of how many people are actually in the building, you probably got a good rowdy crowd making some noise. Um, so I definitely imagine to some level of degree, you still see a bit of a home field advantage down there in Dallas. But yeah, this season, we just yet another case where when Dallas has gone on the road, they played awful. I mean, that's the simple version. You and me were talking about it last week. We thought the number was wrong, and clearly the book's number was wrong because it wasn't big enough. Like, I mean, anybody that watched the game, I think the consensus overall was, when are you going to do something, offense? Talking about the Cowboys, and they just unfortunately at no point in time were they able to figure anything out to really make anything happen. And as you mentioned, the Buffalo Bills went out there and played a game like what I think a lot of people have wished they would play like more often, being less Josh Allen dependent. For a number of years now, it's been talked about how they need to find ways to utilize the run game more and not be so reliant on Josh Allen, not just in the run game, but in overall when it comes to their offensive production. So, games like this, these are the examples people point to where, okay, you have a reasonably strong running back in the backfield that you can utilize, that you can work with, that you can lean on in games like this. And for the most part this season, we've seen the Buffalo Bills go out and be that Josh Allen reliant offense. Um, I think the verdict's still out on the current OC. Now, some might say I might be a little biased, as it's Joe Brady, former OC of the Carolina Panthers a few years back. But one thing that may be interesting and may develop, um, but he clearly had a fascination with using CMC in his time in Carolina. He was the offensive coordinator that helped McCaffrey get to that 1,000-yard rushing and receiving season. So I think to some degree, Brady's philosophy does incorporate the running back position more, whether it be through the passing game, whether it be leaning on that run game more. So there could be some advantages to trying to target James Cook in some of the prop markets moving forward over the next couple weeks.
All right. We will get into our week 16 bets. But before we do that, we'd like to help you guys out.
My man's cutting out a little bit. But yes, if y'all could help us out and smash that like and subscribe button. You can also sign up to the Patreon page for LGR, the highlights. I don't have the link right in front of me, but when my man comes back, Caleb will be able to drop the link for y'all. But yes, we're up here every week trying to help make y'all money. Least y'all could do is smash that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can be up on all the content coming out of LGR, because you're not just getting betting content. My man also covers Cowboys, and his co-host in that show, Good Friends, Better Rivals. They also cover the New York Giants. And there's also we have the starting 11 with Adelia as they look into the English Premier League and some of the more traditional and worldwide football. But yes, my man's back. So
All right.
tell him what the link for the Patreon is.
Well, the link is in the description down below. So if you want to go ahead and click on that and join whatever tier that suits you, that'd be very much appreciated. And thanks for filling in for me while I was gone. Um, but yeah, do all that. We would definitely appreciate all that. But now we will get into our week 16 bets, our 5 best bets of the week. And I'm going to start it off. I'm going to take the Bengals -1.5 at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Steelers have lost 3 in a row. The Bengals have won 3 in a row. Two teams going in completely opposite directions, and they are in the same division. And you know how much I like trends, and these are two trends going on, and I'm going to write both of them. Um, we just seen how bad the Steelers have been. I mean, the offense is freaking terrible. Um, and I just don't see them getting together against the Bengals either. If this is going to be a close game, as the last one was, and as the point spread suggests, at just 1.5, so they actually given the Steelers a chance in this one. I don't see how they're giving it a chance because considering how bad they've been. But it might, like I said, the Steelers did get the win last time, um, but it was a close game. But we've seen the Bengals win a couple of close games in the past 3 weeks. They got one against the Vikings last week, and they got one against the Jaguars. Two close games, and they pulled it out in those two games. So if this comes down to the wire, I like the Bengals' chances, and I like them because Jake Brownie has played pretty damn well during this win streak. Just last week, had 29 to 42 for 324 yards and 2 touchdowns. Um, and it really just does not matter who is starting for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're gonna play like ass. They're gonna play like ass. I mean, that's just as simple as it comes. And they just can't score. They haven't scored 20 points in the past 5 games. So yeah, Steelers also terrible against the spread in the last 5 games, 1-4. So just all over the Bengals, just -1, just -1.5. So it's not too big. It's not too much to ask for, I think.
Yeah, I'm on this exact same play. I got it at -2, but like you said, unless you subscribe to the narrative that it's all rigged, there's a script. Other than that, you're not betting Mason Rudolph to go out there on Christmas Eve and have some fairy tale Rudolph story. If this is the battle of the backups, I'm going with the guy that's shown like that he might actually have a chance to maybe not start, but at least secure a backup position. But Jake Brownie has essentially gone out and done everything the Bengals could ask from him. Um, you know, game manager has been a hot topic this year, like it is most years. Like people haven't heard the word game manager before when referring to quarterbacks. Um, but in this instance, Brownie has gone out there and done exactly what they needed him to as a game manager and not mess up. And when you don't make those mistakes, you see this success that can be had by a better team. Now I do believe that Jamar Chase may be out for this game. That may change as we get closer to Sunday. But even with that said, with the defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers faltering the way that it is, and the offense for the Bengals, I won't say there hasn't been a drop off without Burrow out there, but the offense has shown that they can still go out and be very productive. So with the likes of Boyd, Higgins, Mixon still going out there, um, I'm happy to jump on the Bengals with a small spread like this against a struggling team like the Steelers.
All right, I'll get to my next pick, and I got the Indianapolis Colts at the Atlanta Falcons. They are a 1.5. Oh no, not one. They're a 1 point underdog. I'm gonna take them on the money line to get the outright win. I like what Gardner Minshew has been doing. He's been able to go 6-4 since he's been a starter. Steichen's been coaching him up really well, getting them into playoff position. The Colts have been very, very productive, as I mentioned before, on offense. They put up a lot of points, You wouldn't think so, having a backup quarterback in, but they put up a decent amount of points. They've had 27 plus points in the last six of the last 8 games. Falcons just lost to your now 2-win Panthers in a very awful game in which they scored just 7 points and lost 9-7. Falcons have some really, that's not their only bad loss. They had some really terrible losses. They've lost to the Titans, the Cardinals, the Panthers, Commanders, just terrible teams that they lost to. It just shows that they can be beaten by anybody. So I do like the Gardner Minshew in the Colts, putting up some good amount of points on them, and getting this outright win. Colts 5-1 against the spread. Last 6 games, Falcons just 3-10 against the spread. Last 13 games, pretty awful team against the spread. So definitely like the Colts.
I was looking at this game. I decided to stay off of this matchup, but I definitely like your approach, going with the money line instead of that skinny spread, because where I'm looking, you're only getting 1 point. There's no real value in that 1 point other than giving a push potential that doesn't do you much good unless we see something really wacky like a missed extra point that would tie the game or something of that nature. There's just not too many scenarios that you typically see happen that end in a game finishing by 1 point. So might as well go ahead and get that little bit of extra value behind the money line. You might find it at even money, maybe a slight plus number, but at worst you're still getting better odds than you would playing the minus 110 on the spread. So I definitely like backing the Colts in that situation. The Falcons have just been a dumpster fire all season long. We said it at the beginning of the season, hell, even before the season started. Though the Falcons have talent on that offense, um, as long as they continue this madness at the quarterback position, um, Mariota, Ritter, Heineke, um, whomever at this point, because they clearly don't know what they're doing when it comes to the quarterback position, because they know how to spot talent when it comes to wide receivers. They know how to spot talent when it comes to tight ends, running backs. I mean, and beyond just Bijan Robinson, like their running back from, I believe he was a rookie last year, Algiers. He's been a very productive back over the past couple years for him. So yeah, it's rather baffling that this Atlanta Falcons team has been as bad as they have been. As you just mentioned, they lost last week in a game where they scored a TD and lost to a team that didn't score a single TD. Yes, it was a monsoon. Yes, the weather was a great factor in this game, but at the same time, you go out there and you don't score more than once. Yeah, there's a strong likelihood that you're going to lose in that game, regardless if you're putting up TDs or field goals. It was a very crucial turnover late in the game that helped put the Panthers in a position to get that win. Basically, being able to sit on the ball at the end of the game while in field goal range. So yeah, until Atlanta can figure out their quarterback position, their coaching. I want to say more than just the head coach, because I know there's a lot of rumblings about the GM and some of the upper management. But yeah, we could be seeing the end of the Desmond Ritter and Arthur Smith era in Atlanta. Moving into my next pick, ended up with a push last week, going back to Cleveland, -2.5 as they take on the Houston Texans. The Texans will be without Stroud again, as he hasn't cleared concussion protocol. And honestly, from the Texans' standpoint, I would not be rushing him at all. There's zero reason to. A lot of people said in the draft, it seemed idiotic what Houston was doing, the way they traded basically back into the first round, high in the first round, the way they did. To me, it seemed like more so they're basically making next year's draft a year early. Um, and I think in a lot of ways that's what we've seen occur with that team. So I don't imagine that they'd rush Stroud back given the success that they've had and all the things they could potentially build on for next season. Um, but that being said, only minus 2.5 on the spread. Yes, Flacco comes with, I don't want to say unreliability, but I definitely take Joe Flacco and this Browns offense and defense as they take on Houston at Houston minus 2.5.
Yeah, I like that pick. Definitely with the Texans' questionable quarterback position that they're in. It doesn't seem likely that they can pull it out. But it's just like you said, just Joe Flacco's kind of just even just in the last game, just so up and down, just terrible in the first half. Pulls out in the second half. It's just hard to bet on a guy like that because you never know what you're gonna get from that, and might be bad, might be good. I'm not really sure. So I'm gonna stay away from that roller coaster. Um, but next, I'm gonna go with the Lions -3 at the Minnesota Vikings. Lions have a great bounce back win last week. I mean, they put up 42 points versus Broncos, and I think where Goff threw for 5 touchdowns, but most importantly, he did not turn over the ball. I think that was the biggest deal that the Lions did was take care of the football. And after seeing what Nick Mullins did versus the Bengals, ultimately failing to get the win there when they were up in that game, and due to his mistakes, I mean, basically lost him the game with this couple of interceptions that he had. It shows me that he just can't get it done against a team like just the Bengals. Then he's not going to be able to do it against even a tougher competition that they are facing in the Lions this week. Divisional rival, always tougher even. And if the ball doesn't bounce their way, I just can't see how this Vikings team is going to be successful going forward. And if the Lions uh, just take care of the ball like they did last week, they're going to put in another great performance. I think that's just the only thing that they have to worry about is turning it over. And if they don't do that, then they're going to continue to win games. And -3, not too much to ask for. So I definitely like Lions 14-6 in the last 20 games. So I'm gonna lay the points.
I'm on this exact same game. I believe I got it -3. Yeah, -3. Um, I think something that's worth noteworthy is the last time the Detroit Lions won a division or won their division. A lot of the players on this team weren't even alive. Now, not the, the short version being a lot can be said about being a player and an opportunity to do something for quote unquote the first time ever. And while it may not be the first time ever the Lions have won a division, if it's the first time they've ever done it in your lifetime, that kind of counts as ever. So, you know, you could see a lot of these Detroit Lions players going out there with a very high motivation throughout the rest of the games this season. And I think in a matchup like this, where a lot of people are expecting them to go out there and be the better team, yes, it's a divisional matchup. We've talked about it before. These can be very tricky games trying to handicap because you're almost guaranteed a good game out of both sides, whether that mean high scoring, whether that mean great defense. You almost guaranteed a very good battle. So that could be the reason why we see the spread as low as we do. But being able to get the Lions -3 in this matchup as they take on the Vikings, likely going out there with Nick Mullins again, happy to jump behind the Lions in this game, -3 points.
All right, I'll get to my next pick, and that is the Arizona Cardinals +4 at the Chicago Bears. These two teams are pretty similar to me. They're two bad teams, but they played relatively well in a lot of their games. They have two pretty similar quarterbacks. They both have a pretty good running ability. And also these two teams are both top 10 in rushing. So they both can run the ball, and they're both bottom half of the league in passing. So very, very similar teams here. So that's why I just don't understand with how similar these teams are. Why is the spread 4 points? I mean, 4 points is a lot of points, um, and I can't see why with how similar the way their teams are. That there would be so much of a difference between these two teams. So if you're going to give me 4 points on a game that I think is probably going to be high scoring, back and forth type of close game, I'm going to take the points. Um, and then because I think it's going to probably be a 3 point or less game in the end. The Bears not good against the spread in general, but especially at home, they are just 2-3-1 against the spread this season. So I like the Cardinals on the road.
Yeah, I was just taking a quick look at this matchup because a couple things you said did sort of intrigue my interest because, like you said, the spread. I, we were wrong last week when we were saying the number was wrong with the Bills and the Cowboys, but again, it feels like this number is wrong. Like it should be smaller because while while the Cardinals have been just awful straight up on the road, only 1-6. There's nothing that really stands out as far as their record. ATS, um, you know, it's but the Cardinals have been a team that's fought a lot this season, regardless of who was on the other side. Um, and it's I don't know anybody that would go out here and back the Chicago Bears -4 against anybody in the league right now. Um, like that's just I don't know that not to sound like last week, but that number seems wrong. And yeah, anytime you come across a number that you feel like it's wrong, you kind of got to play it on principle because that's the name of the game. We're always out here trying to find numbers that we believe is wrong, and if we're not, if you find one, I mean, you got to play it. So that'll definitely be an interesting game to watch because I would not be surprised if that game came down to a final field goal or a late score by Arizona. That you know the type of scenario where they got to go and line up for the onside kick and get the onside kick to have a chance to even potentially win it. But at that point, you're likely talking about being within that 4.5 point range. So from that aspect, I definitely like the play. Now, moving into my next play, going to the Thursday night game is we got the Rams taking on the Saints. The Saints have been an awful team all season long. The Rams seem to be figuring things out, seem to be getting things back together. Players are healthy. We're seeing Cooper Kupp and Stafford getting on the same page. Uh, while we've seen a drop off out in Nakua with the return of Cooper Kupp, it's still likely we'll probably see him be the rookie of the year this season. Um, Offensively, they've seemed to be able to turn it around. And Aaron Donald on that defensive line versus I won't say a bad Saints offensive line, but one that hasn't stood out in many positive ways this season. Uh, I think they're going to wreck just all that. Aaron Donald's going to be in the face of the quarterback all game long. And -4, I definitely think the Rams can win this game by a touchdown, if not more. Uh, kind of like that other game you were asking why the line was so big. I'm asking more so why is this line so low? Because at -4, I definitely think the Rams can win by a touchdown or more. Uh, I think last week's score, the final score is a little bit misleading as the Rams were up big in their game with Washington, and it took was it two late back-to-back touchdowns scored by Washington to even make that game remotely close?
Yeah, I just can't do those Thursday night games. It's just they're too weird. They're like I said, there's a weird spread. Um, I just don't like it. I mean, the Saints, yeah, they have been played bad. they stopped the Tommy DeVito train this past week. And they put up not a great amount of points, some points, more points than they have been putting up. So it's kind of just a wait and see. Is that just because they played the Giants, or have they actually improved just a little bit? I'm not sure. So I got it's a little bit of a wait and see for me on where the Saints are going with that. But yeah, definitely like the Rams though. I've always been the Rams. It's just on a Thursday night. Too weird for me. But Brandon Bazel, thanks for joining in, man. Great to have you here. But for my last bet of the week, I got the the Denver Broncos at home -6 against the Patriots. Um, I like I always say I like teams that to bounce back after an embarrassing loss, and so that's what we saw last week against Lions, and we even saw all the frustration on that sideline that Sean Payton was showing. And I like him to get this team right after that, and get all that frustration out on this New England Patriots team, because they are the perfect team to get right against. And they like you said, they can't lose again. I mean, they really just cannot afford to lose. They have to win every game because there's so many teams in the AFC vying for those last wild card spots. And I think they'll even play more for that. Patriots got nothing to play for. I mean, they're ready to pack it in. I think they'll probably lose the rest of their games. So I'd like the Broncos to win by a touchdown. Pats are just 3-14 against the spread. So they've been pretty bad. And yeah, just like the Broncos to get a bounce back win here.
I think I'm a little gun shy on the Broncos this week. Uh, like I said, felt strongly about them last week. I definitely think they'll win this game outright, but I'm not sure if they'll be able to win by a touchdown. And that said, that's just reason enough for me to stay off of this game. Patriots, that another team that has been a massive mess this season. A lot of people expecting and projecting that Bill Belichick won't be with the team next season, which means either he retires or somebody trades for him or for the rights for him as the coach, which could get interesting. I know you could probably find in a couple of different books markets on things like the next coaching position for Bill Belichick, if he coaches at all, because retirement could easily be on the board. But yeah, staying off that game, as I'm just unsure on what the Broncos are going to do. Now, going into my last pick, going down to Miami, we talked about it earlier in the episode. The Cowboys have not been the same team on the road as they have been at home. And we find them in another road game this week as they take on the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are a slim favorite in this game at -1.5. I do think it will be interesting to see how the secondary for the Cowboys will hold up against not only the possibility of Tyreek Hill playing, but Waddle and some of the other pieces that they have there in Miami. Also, I do think it will be very interesting to see how not only the offensive line, but the blocking schemes and things of that nature affect the Cowboys D line and Micah Parsons as well, because we've seen McDaniels come. Coaching trees get talked about a lot. Well, it's fairly clear McDaniels learned firsthand from Kyle Shanahan. This wasn't somebody that worked under a guy, worked with him, but wasn't taught by him, wasn't necessarily trained by him. And I think a lot of what we see out of the offensive scheming, when you get into blocking schemes and how to utilize your offensive line and things of that nature, there's a lot of direct correlation from what we see in Shanahan in San Francisco. And not to say that the Dolphins come in and blow out the Cowboys, but I do think that's a little bit of a blueprint of what to potentially expect from this pass rush and defensive push of the Cowboys in this game. So I'm gonna be riding with the Dolphins -1.5 in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I can't fight. I don't. I can't even fight you on this one. I mean, I feel like I mean, we were shown we're not good we're not good on the road. Um, I mean, but I think one thing we can do better this week is get after the quarterback. You know, to has shown that he takes some hits sometimes. I think that's maybe the one difference that can give us an advantage in this game. But if they just sit there and give it to Moster or A Chain, I mean, we ain't gonna stop them because we haven't shown that we can stop them. So it depends really on their commitment to the run game. I think the Dolphins' run game. Um, and then yeah, I mean, obviously Tyree can just blow past everybody and really kill us there. So yeah, definitely. I mean, I hate to say, but I like your bet here. But I'm not betting against my Cowboys because there's just no fun in that. I mean, I don't even feel good about winning that bet if I did that. So yeah, but no red alert this week. We're on
Yep,
different games, so you can go, the Weezy side, you can go my side. Yeah, plenty of options, plenty of opportunities to make some money. So definitely get your bets in, and we'll go through our picks one last time for y'all. I got the Cincinnati Bengals -1.5 at the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have the Indianapolis Colts +1 at the Falcons. I have the Lions -3 at the Minnesota Vikings. I have the Cardinals +4 at the Chicago Bears. And I got the Broncos -6 at home versus the New England Patriots.
Yes, this week I'll be going with the Cincinnati Bengals -2 as they take on the banged up Steelers. Joe Flacco and the Browns -2.5 as they go down to Houston to try and continue, this Joe Flacco resurgence that, it stayed alive last week. We're going to find out if it lives another week. Got Detroit Lions -3 as they take on the Vikings. Got the Rams -4 as they take on the New Orleans Saints in LA. And the Dolphins -1.5 as the Cowboys come into sunny Miami. You know, do have a couple flat numbers on the board, so clearly the possibility for another push does exist. Of course, I'd like to win, but at the rate this is going, I think I'm getting more kick out of seeing what crazy set of circumstances are going to happen to encourage this push to just land because somebody out there is making some really great numbers because I keep finding them and we keep landing on a push.
Well, yeah, well, as long as you're not losing money, I mean
There
that's at
is
least.
that.
All right, that is our show for this week. Thank you for tuning in, and watching us. Because all we do is help you guys try to help you guys win some money. So hopefully we can do that for you this weekend and all the rest of the weekends, all the way up to the Super Bowl. So you can tell the people where they can find you, DWeezy.
Yes, y'all can reach me here on YouTube at Backyard Action Media, as well on Twitter X at The Yard Vets.
You can find me at NFL Caleb22 on Instagram and Twitter/X. And you can find me on this channel doing Good Friends, Better Rivals, talking Cowboys, talking Giants. We'll get into more detail on that Cowboys embarrassing loss to the Bills last week. And we'll go more in depth on the previewing the Cowboys-Dolphins game, as well as getting into the Giants' loss to the Saints and whoever the hell they play this week. But we'll be talking about that. Yeah, as Bazel said, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Hope you
Stay safe out there, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope you have a great holiday season. And as always, let's get ready to make that money.